AskReddit by deleted. Americans, what do Europeans do that you find really weird? Specifically Germans, Berliners, in this case. When you move, you take the kitchen with you. That is just mind-boggling to me. Deleted. You guys have hamburger flavored Cheetos in your American food aisle. Homie, we don't even have those. Deleted. I can't remember if this is Ireland specific or a thing in the rest of Europe, but the bathroom light switch being outside of the door. Pray tell, Ireland, just how many times a father or a sibling has flicked the switch on and off or just straight up turned it off while you were doing your business? We have strict zonal laws on where you can have electrics in a bathroom. You can have a switch in a bathroom if it's a pull string. Two Germans will go into an office and shut the door as though they are talking about something important. Nope, just soccer. Some people think football is a matter of life and death. I assure you, it's much more serious than that. Bill Shankly. I lined in Germany 3 years. I loved everything about it, except one thing. Personal space doesn't exist in lines. I'd be standing in line at a store and the next person behind me is breathing down my neck. Step back, man. Must have been a long line if you were standing in it for 3 years. Smoke cigarettes. I'm an American in Europe right now and the amount of people I see smoking is crazy when compared to the amount I see smoking back in the States. I do find it a bit odd that everyone sort of agrees nothing happens in August. Like, for a whole month, you better not need anything done, even doctors seem scarce. Edit. To be clear, August is the vacation month in many places in Europe. While August is a popular time to go away in the US, summer vacations seem more distributed through the school-less months. In Europe, however, it just seems understood no one will work in August, or at least a large part of it. Well, people have to take their 30 days of vacation a year at some point, so might as well all do it when it's nice weather and agree that nothing is getting done. Fuck off, BuzzFeed. Top 7 things Americans of Reddit find weird with Europe. Make people pay to use public toilets. I'm European and I can't understand that as well. Not weird, but I'm always pretty impressed by their grasp of languages. Here's Ivan straight out of the mean streets of Moscow who speaks better English than I do and he also speaks Portuguese and Mandarin. Deleted. Leaving babies napping outside, alone, in cold weather. This is specifically aimed at the Scandinavians. I was in Denmark in November and it was a super windy, cold week, ranged from -6 degrees to -9 degrees Celsius, and this honestly stunned me. I admire that people feel so safe that they can do it. Edit. I know -6C isn't super cold for Scandinavia, but I have low cold tolerance and it was also windy in Copenhagen. There's a popular case of a Danish actress, Annette Svensson, and her husband leaving their 1-year-old child outside of a restaurant in Nick and they had the police called on them and CPS got involved. From what I remember, the mother still defends herself to this day. I'm going to Europe on my honeymoon, and it's been crazy to me how other countries just have open borders. I'm taking the ice from Germany to France and there's no border checks. It's really fascinating to me. When I was in the Navy, in Germany some of my comrades fell asleep on the train home and woke up in Switzerland. They then got themselves a beer and rode the train back. Went across the pond for a deployment. 2 things I noticed that were peculiar. 1. The amount of smoking. Europeans seem to smoke a lot more than Americans, and, unlike us, at face value there don't seem to be discrepancies based on class or anything. Everyone smokes. 2. The fascination with tracksuits. A lot of the guys love tracksuits. Hell, I was surrounded by such tracksuit exposure I wound up getting one myself. I love it. No judgment and nothing but love, y'all. Several years ago, way before the Zoom era of COVID, I worked remotely with a fair number of Romanians, and when we did Skype calls, they would just light up, inside their own houses, on a work video call. I was speechless. I'm so rarely around cigarette smokers that to just see them do it so casually in their own homes was like going back in time. I am from and work in C and work with both Euros and Americans. The Americans adjust to heat and humidity pretty fast and well, the Euros not so much. To be fair, the entire eastern part of the US is fairly humid. Much more so the further south you go. The entire southeast of the US feel like living in a bowl of soup in the summer. And the entire southwest, while very dry, is quite hot. So a lot of Americans are already pretty used to heat and humidity. In Paris, I was offered a seat on the metro when there was none every single time. I'm a senior. Very seldom happens here. It's very common. I do feel bad when I offer up my seat and they don't take it. Seems like I just called them old and disabled. A lot of European cultures eat dinner so late at night. I can't imagine eating my dinner at 8 or 9 at night. TBF, this is a south-north split. In Netherlands, Germany and further the dining is more typical to the US. Spain, Italy, Croatia though. I thought I was gonna starve to death. Deleted. This is easy in Finland. Just wear black and you are both fashionable and practical. No ice in the water. I asked for ice in my water at a restaurant in Copenhagen and the waitress warned me it would be cold. Removed. As with many of these, depends where in Europe. Go to northern Finland and you'd be eaten alive by mosquitoes. Speak multiple languages. Most Europeans I know speak at least 2. We kinda have no choice, at least in my country. When you entered the 2nd grade of middle school, age around 7 you just get English as a subject. It's mandatory, there is nothing you can do about it. And I am honestly glad, because English really opened world to me. Can't even imagine to speak one maternal language, especially since our countries are so small. Hotels having 2 twin beds pushed next to each other instead of king queen size. You invented kings and queens, WTF. The reason is that if whoever booked the room doesn't want one big bed, they just move them apart. The nightstands usually move as well, and you have 2 beds. The fact that many can take 2 hours for lunch in the middle of a day and it is considered to be a norm. 2h lunch is a bit long, but around 1h is more reasonable. Usually a 1/2 or 1h lunch break is mandatory by law, so you go and eat and enjoy it. We work to live, not live to work. You can drive 5 hours in any direction and the people there will speak a different language and have a completely different culture. Sneezes get no reaction. I have since come around to their point of view, but for a minute there I was like, where are my blessings ? Jets and heat. The smoking culture. When my family and I visited, it was like everyone smoked, even young people and teens. Depends enormously on where in Europe you are. Some European countries have a lower prevalence of smokers than the US, and even within the US it depends on where you are. If you visit places like Greece, France, then absolutely. But if you visit places like Norway, Iceland or Sweden, then absolutely not. When you ask them how are you doing, they think it's a personal question instead of an American greeting. I think this contributes to the US being perceived as superficial. That we just perform this charade of asking how each other is doing when giving an honest answer is faux pas. The amount of time you'll have to vacation. This is a flex BTW, so sorry in advance. When I worked at a large UK insurance company and my kid was born, I'm a dad, I got 6 months off on full pay to bond with my kid. I continued collecting my 6 weeks a year paid holiday in that time too. I think certain countries need to be specified really. The cultures of the UK and Greece are completely different to make a blanket statement. And X200B. Edit currently fighting back waves of Americans disputing this right now. Yes, every country is different in different parts, the same as how California is different to Wisconsin or wherever in the UK the southeast is different to the north. Yeah, like one has classic Greek sculptures, a failing economy, a dispute with a neighbor over land on an island, large levels of poverty, unintelligible ways of speaking, and the other one is Greece. Smoking and drinking at such a young age. When I went, middle schoolers and high schoolers were doing it freely, and parents with toddlers near them would smoke openly next to them. People were even smoking inside of restaurants. Being 14 and getting drunk in the field next to the train station is an English treason. Our drink of choice was 2.5 litres of Strongbow, as it was only £2.50. I took German in high school and learned about their culture and just brushed it off, but then I actually got to go. First, having to specify I wanted tap water or non-sparkling water. I just ended up buying bottled water because it was easier. Second, almost everyone would shut down for lunch. Even businesses besides restaurants or delis. Edit, spelling. I worked at a spa and people all around the world would come. The Europeans were so comfortable getting naked like it's nothing. Mind you, this is 5 stars. Celebs and MS Universe models come to this spa, and Europeans will walk naked like nothing. Edit, personally I don't care about nudity, but I can understand others not wanting to see her junk, so it's not a sexual problem thing for me, I just don't wanna see it. Edit 2, for the slow ones who keep saying don't look. I worked there and there was averagely 50 plus naked men at attendant in the locker room. Every corner you go they're there. Because in most of Europe, nudity is not inherently sexualized. Being naked doesn't mean being sexual, and it's something we grew up with. It's definitely not for everyone, especially in modern days, but there is a larger prevalence of nudist beaches etc. My dad, living in Germany, took my boss to lunch meeting in Belgium today, and then had dinner in Netherlands. Me in Texas, I had to take a weekend off to make it to the next major city in my state. Bitch about Americans being loud and obnoxious when French people exist. Yeah, as a French I agree, sorry for that. But have you heard a slightly upset Spanish woman? Accepting hot summers with no air conditioning? Do y'all like to suffer? Edit, I am addressing Southern Europe. Dude, I live in Eastern Europe and I'm dying for the whole year just to get those 2 weeks of hot weather. Why should I be cold for the whole year instead? When I was in Paris around 2002, I saw these ads for what I believe was some kind of frozen sorbet treat, and the ads featured extremely sexualized depictions of humanoid animals like a dolphin lady with big boobs. Softcore furry porn, basically. I know the French aren't so prude as Americans, but why bring the animals into it? I applaud you for mentioning such a specific thing and for being able to remember it so well. In Greece, certain staples like a cup of coffee can only be sold at set price that must be posted. I find this weird but great. My Greek friend has a plump, sometimes loud American wife, so they just assume he's American too and try to charge them higher rates. He will give the bill a long look, then the server, the posted prices, and back to the server. If they try to say some BS to explain why the prices are higher, HW will just point to the sign again and cock his head to say, cut the shit, and they back off. If it happens in a certain town, they're screwed. His brother is the mayor. American and European, the only 2 world regions known for Reddit. Asians, what do Africans do that you find weird? You know, it kind of blows my mind that Europe has free education and free healthcare, but you can't get a drink of water or take a piss without paying. Not really sure where in Europe you're referring to, but I've never had to pay for a piss or water. UK. have royalty in the modern era. Keep eggs on the counter. I know they're okay to eat, but it's just so weird to me. This actually depends on how eggs have been handled before. In Europe they are usually not washed, so the protective layer is still on the shell and it's okay to keep them at room temp. In USA eggs are usually washed and need to be kept in the fridge. If you keep washed eggs at room temp, they won't be okay to eat.